What's up, everybody? Chozo Nomad here again. The KFS Tesla has just finished refueling here at the Osiris station, and it's just going to go ahead and start preparing its maneuvering out towards the Duna system. And wow, my voice squeaked there. Anyway, this isn't going to be a particularly interesting video yet again. I'm rather tired, so my commentary is going to be a little slow. You're gonna get a little montage here in a bit with just a little bit of music, so you can just kick back and enjoy it. Other than that, this transfer didn't go quite as well as I wanted it to. I failed to think about transfer windows, so my guy just kind of drifted off into space there for a couple months, maybe a year or so. I'm sure he's okay with it. And unfortunately, my Ion cruiser didn't make it to Duna. I told you it was experimental. I knew this might happen. Again, due to the fact that I didn't get the transfer window right, it just couldn't quite match up in time. It entered the system. It entered Duna's sphere of influence, but it didn't quite make capture, so it's now floating off into space. And that's why we have drone ships. They're expendable. You don't have to worry about trying to recover a Kerbin life that's out there in space. I bet that would actually be an interesting challenge, trying to recover a ship that's lost between planets. It'd be a very small target to hit at that distance. So I set up my slingshot, and here we go. And here we are. We have successfully arrived at Duna. You may notice there's something a little bit wrong here. One of which is I'm very close to Duna, and yet I'm not aerobraking. So it says, the little info bar over there, little eye icon on the right side there, says that the atmosphere starts at 50,000 meters. Now, it may start, but it is not a very dense atmosphere I'm discovering, and it's not aerobraking like I want it to. So I'm going to have to burn here and burn a little bit of precious fuel to slow down enough to stay in actually this system, which is not what I wanted. And I figured, you know, since I'm already close to a polar orbit, might as well make it a complete orbit. There's a thing on the forums, it's a ribbon generator, and you get these little awards for achieving certain types of orbits and all that fun stuff. It's all an honor system though, so it's really, you know, only up to your own discretion what you put on there. So you could technically only visit one planet and say you visited them all, but you know, you're just fooling yourself. No, not many people will actually be able to check it anyway. So here I am, just burning them to slow myself down. And I'm gonna have to fix this polar orbit because I don't think this guy's gonna have enough fuel to make it back to Kerbin because of this maneuver and the fact that, you know, escaping any system requires quite a bit of delta V. So I'm gonna need to design some kind of tanker to get out here and help this guy, because otherwise he's gonna be lost in the great beyond. But you know, that's a pretty epic way to go, exploring other worlds. And well, I guess the lack of oxygen and slowly starving to death wouldn't be too particularly nice. Other than that, though, I'm sure they'll contact the scientists back on Kerbin and they'll figure something out for him. But in the meantime, I have to equalize this orbit before that can even happen. So how I'm gonna do that is, and you'll see it here in a minute, is I use my favorite good old stand by the slingshot maneuver. But before I do that, I tweak around with the orbit here, because I'm trying to see whether or not being this close to Duna actually has any kind of appreciable aerobraking effect. Yeah, I'm just dropping it in a little bit more, because I'm wondering how close I actually have to get to Duna to get that kind of an aerobraking effect. Because I think I've heard or I've read on the forums or something that it's around 10,000 meters is when you actually get effective aerobraking. So I'll have to keep that in mind next time I'm here. But yeah, here I'll just swing around a little bit, see if I can get my experiments underway a little bit, my self-imposed experiments. You gotta love time warp. Time warp is so useful. It's a little strange because it'll say you spent like 15 years in space if you're doing these huge interplanetary transfers, and yet your Kerbals are perfectly fine. Who knows? Maybe they don't need to eat, or they just have cryo sleep or something. Yeah, here I am checking it, and you can't really see it, but when you get closer to like mid 30,000s, lower 30,000s, there is a slight aerobraking effect. Yeah, right there. I mean, it's barely perceptible, and I'm at 40,000 feet, or 40,000 meters, excuse me. So you have to get really, really close, apparently, to Duna to get something like that. Well, as the senior electronics and artificial intelligence official on board the KFS Tesla, Bob has decided to check out the Sparrow drone. It's been giving off some kind of funky readings he's not particularly comfortable with, so he's got to fly out here and manually check what's going on. He thinks maybe something might have, a micrometeorite hit his AI core or something like that, but just to be sure. I mean, you're out in the middle of the big black space. Last thing you want is something to go wrong. So here he is. He's just flying along, checking the spine for damage. Doesn't see anything. It's time to check the AI core. Oh, well, that's not good. But no time to worry about that. A transfer window has opened up for us to slingshot around Ike, the geosynchronous moon of Duna. And as you can see here, you just gotta tweak with a little bit. Come on, come on. Nope, no, not quite. No, almost, almost. Perfect. Oh, come on, get back in there. There we go. Beautiful, beautiful. Love it. Yeah, that's about right. Just a little bit of tweaking, and I can get that fixed. But hopefully, I don't end up. This flight path doesn't send me through the moon. That does happen from time to time. Whenever you're setting up these maneuvers, that's something you got to be cautious of. So let's see what it does. All right, here we go. Oh, dang it! That is exactly what I was afraid of. Okay, no worries. The best thing to do here is not panic and try and do some crazy maneuver to burn your way out there. You gotta think about this carefully. And maneuver nodes are your friend in this situation, even though they screwed me over and sent me through the moon. A nice trick to be on the lookout for is if you're doing these maneuvers and when your maneuver involves slingshotting around the moon and you see like this crazy squiggle, that might be a hint that you're going through the moon and going around very closely through its center of mass. So if you see a big squiggle, that usually means that you're gonna do something not so savory. Alright, here I think I've just about got it fixed. This is probably the most maneuver nodes I've ever used. What do we got? We got up to red. I think that's 3 maneuver nodes. You can go further than that. I've never actually quite pushed it that far, but I think you can go quite a bit longer than that. I mean, they start to run out of colors, I guess. So I'll just go ahead and slowly torque it around here and get this bad boy all lined up. And I'm just going to fast forward through this next section because it's just a bunch of precision burning, and just gets really kind of boring to watch, I'll admit. So I'll just go ahead and fast forward through this here. And I hate that. That's something that really bugs me about this game, is whenever you turn on SAS and RCS at the same time, your RCS things just freak out and you end up wasting so much RCS. And it's really a big problem if you're going to be designing something larger, like a carrier or a destroyer or dreadnought or whatever, and you try and toggle SAS and RCS at the same time. It's just going to dump so much out. So you got to be careful of that. And whenever you turn on SAS, be sure RCS is off. Otherwise you're going to lose such a huge amount of stuff. Now you can see that my maneuver is kind of working here. Again, I'm just going to need a little bit of tweaking. Tweaking. That's using that a lot. Tweaking. I believe that used to be a drug term as well. Probably still is a drug term. Anyway, I digress. As you can see, my orbit is relatively normalized, which is exactly what I wanted, even though it didn't go exactly the way I wanted it to. All you gotta do here is circularize and normalize. Get your ascending and descending nodes fairly close to even. Makes rendezvousing very easy. Especially if you're going to be planning complex maneuvers later on with multiple ships. Always equalize and normalize your orbits. Makes it so much easier. Well, this guy will just flip around and get a nice pretty view of Duna. Before we say farewell on this episode, they'll go ahead and send word back to Kerbin that they need a little bit of fuel. And that Sparrow can begin its mission for probing and all that fun stuff. And that's it for now. I'll see you guys next time.